Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to another episode of That Nerdy Site Show, a weekly podcast where the team members from That Nerdy Site get together to talk about our lives and all of the nerdy things we love about them. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and this week we are talking about the Super Mario Brothers movie. Joining me, we have Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cam?
Hey, what's going on?
What is going on? So yeah, today is going to be our, much like last week was our spoiler cast of, what did we talk about last week? Oh, the D&D movie. This week we're going to do spoiler cast of Super Mario Brothers movie. Cameron and I went and saw it this weekend, Wednesday, I guess when it came out. Logan went and saw it, I think yesterday, and he also very much enjoyed it, but he wasn't able to make the podcast. But he did want to send along that he was very much a fan. So as we often do on these shows, we'll kind of start with our spoiler-free impressions, and then I'll have a timestamp in the episode for when we go full spoiler, full tilt spoiler land and all that stuff. Before we dive in, though, a little bit of housekeeping. If you like what you hear, please remember to like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. So, Cameron, spoiler-free thoughts. I know you and I have already talked about the movie extensively since we did see it a number of days ago. But what did you think about the Super Mario Brothers movie?
While I do have my criticisms of it, I don't think that those criticisms matter. And what I mean by that is, I think that this film is a film that exists. It is supposed to work the way that it works, and it is not trying to work in ways that it does not work. I think that it knew what it wanted it to be. They accomplished it, and despite whatever the criticisms I have of it, I think that it's still a really solid, well put together and followed through on movie. I really enjoyed it. I had a great time watching it with you. I think this is one of those movies that when you are there for the ride, it is so good. Like, it is so much fun. There's so much nostalgia for it, but it does lack, I think, it is not trying to do what like the Sonic movies do. It is not trying to broker new ground. It is taking existing stuff, ideas, mythos, everything in there, and putting it together to make a very competent, good, solid film. And if this is something that resonates with you because you're old school Mario fans like Trevor and I are, or if you are young and you have kids, I think that this is a perfect movie to take them to, especially if they're Mario fans. This is definitely one for the enthusiasts and for the young at heart, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. I think in specifying a lot of what you kind of alluded to of like they made a very specific kind of movie. I think that very specific kind of movie is a kids movie that is not an all ages movie.
Yeah.
This is very much like, directed. I mean, my biggest fear when they were like, Illumination is going to be working on this was like, oh God, please don't let this be a Minions. And while it definitely doesn't reach like that floor, it's also not a Pixar thing. It's not trying to be, it will definitely appeal to adults who are fans of Mario, but if you're an adult who's not a fan of Mario, there's probably not a lot here in this. It's a very beautiful, a very vibrant film, but you're not going to pop in the same way that like you and I popped for sound effects and musical cues and stuff like that. And because it is very much it is an incredibly simple movie, I would say, especially like plot wise. It is very much like, all right, you're going from point A to point B. That's pretty much it there. It is 90 minutes in and out, which is nice. I would have liked if it had tried a little bit harder to do some of those things. But it's very much like from the trailers and stuff, it's not going much further beyond that. It is very a surface level movie, which is fun. But yeah, it's not I will enjoy it in the future when I go back and like rewatch it, but it's not one that, in the way that like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse immediately like hooks me and like I want to go and see it again and again, and it's gonna jump up my favorite movies of all time kind of list. This is it's a fine movie. It's definitely a good, adaptation of Mario. Mario has never been too story heavy in their main like platforming games, so it's pretty much that. But yeah, it's filled with Easter eggs and references galore and stuff like that, and it's very clearly made by fans of Mario and fans of Nintendo. I just wish it had a little bit more of that like Pixar or even like DreamWorks like Shrek charm to it, or How I Met Your Dragon, or How I Met Your Dragon, How to Train Your Dragon. Like those kinds of again, like the making it an all ages movie instead of just a kids movie. But yeah, still a very fun time. It was definitely a 90 minutes of a smile on my face.
Mm-hmm.
There weren't, I mean, especially going back to like Dungeons and Dragons last week, there weren't moments that like had me like uproariously laugh or anything like that. It was very much a like, I was always like in the, if you have like a line chart, going up and down kind of thing, I was probably always in like a good like 5 to 8 range of like enjoyment, satisfaction. Maybe I peaked into like a 9 at one point or something like that, but it was very much like this is a good movie, I'm having a good time, but it didn't like have the moments of greatness that I really wished it had, and some of that was and we'll dive into this a little bit more in spoiler territory, but like some of that was like the music of it, especially I think because of how hyped up the music had been for me. Like obviously with like Tim Geddes out there being like a Mario super fan and a music super fan. There were a lot of moments where I was like, I'm surprised at how many of these themes I don't recognize, or when they lean into like licensed music, it's the like the bottom of the barrel, like we're going to go with the most obvious choice for a licensed song. And a lot of times those just didn't work for me, or it was like, I think some of those moments have worked better in other films and stuff like that. So, yeah, overall, I mean, definitely a recommendation from me is if you are a fan of Mario, and or if you have kids or are a kid. If you're a kid, don't listen to this podcast. I don't know what you've been doing, but yeah.
Well, no, we're an all ages.
No, we're not. Like I try to be. You uproariously curse on many an episode to the point where I'm like, I should be clicking the like explicit content button on a bunch of our uploads, but I don't because I'm just hoping people aren't actually listening. But yeah. So anyway, enjoyed it. It's like, it's also the whiplash of like The Last of Us was such a great adaptation.
Yeah.
And this is a great adaptation, but in a very different way. Like this is the kind of movie that, yeah, like 8-year-old Trevor would have loved the crap out of this far more than 38-year-old Trevor does. Oh my God. I was 8 years old when the original Super Mario Brothers movie came out. Wild. Anyway, any final thoughts before we move into spoiler territory there, Cam?
Yeah. Once we get into spoiler territory, I think we'll be able to explain our thoughts a lot more thoroughly. I understand why I think that this movie is the way that it is, and we'll get into why in detail in the spoiler section, but I think despite it being it is what it is, like, go see this movie. It's fun.
Oh, I will just in terms of like cast and stuff, I will say Chris Pratt didn't bother me. His Mario
was great. Like, or maybe not great, but it was certainly like, it was more than serviceable.
It's fine. Yeah. It's the like, I remember going back to like the very first things where they were like, he doesn't sound like Charles Martinet. I'm like, you would not want 90 minutes of a Charles Martinet Mario. No. That would be incredibly annoying and irksome, and yeah, it would not be a fun time. Just woohoo and all that stuff. Like not great. So like bringing him a little down to earth. But I do think performance-wise, like I really like Keegan-Michael Key. I think he's a lot of fun as Toad. Mm-hmm. But the real standouts for me were Jack Black as Bowser and Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong. Charlie Day's fun in there as Luigi too. I
think Anna Taylor-Joy is fantastic as Peach.
I think Peach is fantastic, and I like Anya Taylor-Joy. I didn't think she was really doing a ton in terms of like a vocal performance that isn't just like Peach is really cool in this.
But I think that also goes for Donkey Kong. Like nothing about Donkey Kong's vocal performance was like outside of.
I mean, I think, like, I guess I think Donkey Kong was very funnily written, and I think Seth Rogen played into a lot of that humor very well.
For sure.
And especially, like, the relationship he has with certain characters that we'll talk about in the spoiler section is, I think, very well played. Whereas I think, and it's you know, not necessarily Anya Taylor-Joy's fault or anything like that. Like, Peach is, as is often the case in these kinds of games and movies and stuff, she's the straight woman. Like she gets to have like really cool moments, but those are really cool moments for the character and the animation, not necessarily the performance.
I see what you mean by that. Yeah. I felt that there's a lot of ways you could go wrong with voicing Peach.
Sure.
And I think that she did a great job of delivering her voice went extremely well with the role that Peach had in the film.
Yes. Yeah. Again, not bad at all. It wasn't the standout like some others were.
Yeah.
I definitely put her above Chris Pratt because, yeah, Chris Pratt is not phoning it in, but he's, you know, not doing any kind of like affectation particularly well.
And I think that, like, we'll get into that, or we don't have to get into it later, actually. We can talk about it now. I really strongly believe that the vocal direction he was given was not to lean too heavily into the kind of Martinet,
obviously.
Like Mario. Because they've asked him, hey, can you even do those? And he goes, yeah, and he does them extremely well.
Yeah.
And I think that was intentional. I would say his vocal performance is much more aligned with like the Bob Hoskins performance in the original film, in the 90s, where it is just like a kind of Brooklyn, New York accent.
I think Bob Hoskins is way harsher than Chris Pratt's is.
For sure.
Chris Pratt is being Chris Pratt with occasionally a New York accent.
I think what I was trying to say is it's more on that side of the spectrum than the Martinet, woohoo side of the spectrum. I feel like I think he's a good, like, if you really want to put those on opposite ends, I think Chris Pratt's a pretty good middle ground. If you want to look at it that way.
Sure.
But yeah, no.
All right. Well, we will dive into full spoilers then, but yes, before that, recommendation, again, if you're a Mario fan, definitely go check this out. You'll have a good fun time. If you haven't already checked it out, movie's on track to be the biggest animated opening of all time. So, like knocking Frozen out of its number one spot. So, shout out to that. Yeah, let's dive into full spoilers here. Last chance to duck away. So Cam, I'll kind of, where do you want to go spoiler filled first?
I think just like, let's hit up the plot first. I think the first thing that I want to say is this movie does not really have a second act. It is,
the second act is the Donkey Kong Kingdom. Act 1 is, all right, going into the Mushroom Kingdom. Act 2 is like, Act 2 ends with, or Act 2 starts with, okay, Mario, you didn't finish the course, but we're gonna go anyway. And they go off on their adventure to the Mushroom Kingdom, and like the whole Rainbow Road section, I think, is all Act 2, and then Act 3 is basically like the wedding on, like, the finale.
Okay.
It's very brief because it's all in 90 minutes, but like that's the 3-act structure of this.
I can see that now. Now that you've broken it down that way for me, it's like, there is 3 acts. Okay. It's like, I think that's another thing also. This is a tight 90 minutes. I alluded to it earlier, but I'll go into it more now. The reason why this is such like a brief movie, especially with like the plot and everything and character development, is because I really do believe they did not want to. How much do you know about like the behind the scenes, like what happened on the original Super Mario Brothers 1993?
I don't think we need to really dive down that rabbit hole.
I think it'd be fun just to.
I don't know how well it like ties into a spoiler cast for this movie, but
well, sure. So what I want to say is, so during that time, Nintendo had no creative like contribution that they were allowed to do, and so they watched as like the original idea that was pitched to them that they agreed to was absolutely like butchered and torn apart in every possible way into the movie that it became. Like, it is it is a behind the scenes storytelling of that about the making of that film is phenomenal. But what I think the reason why we get the kind of movie that we get now is this is a direct response to that. It is tight. It is a tight 92 minutes. It is in and out of these plot points. It never stays too long for any place. And because of that, I do feel like there's often times where like it doesn't get a chance to breathe in some of its environments. It doesn't get a chance to like. Sometimes movies like you really just wish that they would just like let you sit in a space. A great example of that for me was the kind of party scene with Bowser. I think it was Bowser's Fury was playing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that party scene. I would have liked a little bit longer in that section. It's a tight, like maybe 30 seconds, 45 seconds, maybe up to a minute of where it's like, we're going to explain what Bowser's intentions are. Why did he get the superstar and what's going on? They hit that quick, hard, and fast, and then they're out. It's interesting to see that level of like bang, bang, boom out of that scene. And I think that there are several moments of that where it's like, man, maybe this could have sat a little bit longer. That being said, you know, maybe I would be eating crow right now if they had an older cut or another cut where they did do that and it's not as good. But I think that this film does suffer in ways that it moves so quickly that I don't think it was intentional for them that they were making a kids movie. I think they were trying to make a more family centered film.
Oh, I don't think that at all.
That's fair.
I mean, like based on their history, at least, like the most like all ages they've done is probably like the Despicable Me series, but they've been in Minions land so long that like they are kids, and Nintendo also very like kid focused in the Mario brand. So the fact that like Nintendo was as hands on this as they were, yeah, I think their target audience was kids and Nintendo diehard super fans.
Sure,
they weren't trying to make this like a, hey, let's bring in people that, you know, don't know these things.
Have you seen the Minions films?
I've saw the first one.
Okay.
And I've seen enough like clips from the other ones to know they are filled with gibberish, fart jokes, and music drops that like they rely too heavily on and are targeted at very young children. So
yes, and there's another part of it. So I have seen just about every Minions film. I've seen just about every Despicable Me film because I'm an uncle. I have nieces and nephews. I've seen these films with them. There are a lot of things put in those movies for adults, and weirdly enough, like targeting boomers especially.
I mean, like even that is I when I say the music drops, like that's an element of what I'm referencing there, I guess, is like, and like in this one, you know, the Holding Out for a Hero and Take on Me, like those aren't songs that are in this movie for the kids watching this movie. Those are songs that are in the movie for the parents of the kids that are watching this movie.
But it's also a lot of like, so there's a lot of, I'm trying not to get too into the weeds on this. And I'm ready to pull it out at any time. But there is a level of commitment to certain, not always in touch with plot points, but the things going on around in the film. The environments of the films themselves are often geared not specifically towards children, the way the characters and a lot of the story elements are, but the world itself is geared towards a kind of fun, like part nostalgia, part fun retrospective of eras that kids would have no references to. A lot of the jokes or a lot of the characters are based off of references to people or historical icons or stuff that existed at the time that the films are quote unquote taking place in time, especially the Minions films. And so because of that, you have because that is and I should actually say the Minions films are more overall family friendly than and focus on like a broader age range than the Despicable Me movies, which I feel are more targeted towards kids. But that being said, I think that the point I was trying to make on it is that I think that there was a idea that, hey, this movie's going to be for all ages. There's going to be a lot here, but it ends up being just targeted or not targeted. It ends up being just really like quote unquote for kids. and the Nintendo diehards because of that.
The argument I would make is,
Mhm.
are the adults that understand those references actually enjoying the film, or do they just see the reference and get that it's a reference to a thing they know? Like, is it because from what I've seen, like especially I think the most recent one that had the whole like memey gentle minions movement was like, oh, it's the 70s, so you've got like women with like crazy afros and stuff like that. It's like, okay, that's a reference to a real person, but do they do anything with that like makes it targeted for that, adult audience? Or is it just oh, that's a thing I recognize, so I don't hate the fact that I'm going to have to watch this 10 times with my 3-year-old that's laughing at Kevin going zebra blah 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 or whatever.
Yeah, I think there is. So it's like, yeah, some people have afros, but there's like one of the main characters in not Despicable Me 3, Minions. I want to say Minions.
Minions: The Rise of Gru was the last one.
Yeah, Minions: Rise of Gru. That one in particular, like one of the main people in that is like a roller disco fanatic.
Right.
And there's tons of like that film is just filled with disco and 70s references out the wazoo.
But like, are they good, or are they just
all right?
Much like a lot of the stuff in this movie, very surface level. Like,
I think it goes deeper than surface level.
Like, if you were a super disco fan, like we're Super Mario fans, you might enjoy those things. But yeah,
I mean, I enjoyed those disco and like late 70s elements from
Resident.
I mean, that's fair.
Anyway, enough about Minions.
Yeah, enough about
I'm going to disagree with you on this. That I don't think
fair.
This is like. I don't think Illumination has a good history or good track record of all ages, especially in comparison to DreamWorks with Shrek or the Puss in Boots movies or Pixar, of course.
I think in comparison to those other two studios, you are 100% correct. I think that is definitely the case.
Yeah.
That being said, I think it nails what it's trying to be, which is a fun Mario film for like, that is true to the kind of themes and I guess emotional, like there's an emotional resonancy in this film towards the games themselves. Whether it's the music, the characters, the environments, there's emotional resonancy to this movie that it kind of like resonates throughout the entire thing. Whether it's, oh, hey, because like here's the thing, I like, even though I acknowledge and fully aware it's a really bad movie, I like the original Super Mario Brothers movie in the 90s.
I grew up with it, so I remember very much. I loved it. I watched it a ton. And then I started being exposed to like art criticism and people being like, this is terrible. and being like, oh yeah, it really doesn't like it really butchers the source material. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. And its world makes no sense. And like there's so many things wrong with that original movie.
Yeah.
But I love that they decided, hey, we're going to like that feel of their plumbers in Brooklyn. We're keeping that.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, like Bob Hoskins, John Leguizamo, they're fun.
Yeah.
They're in a very bad movie.
Oh, it's such a...
But they're having a fun time with it. Dennis Hopper is really fun in there too. Mm-hmm. And the I highlighted her whenever we talked about it on Andor, but also the woman who played Andor's mom. That's the first thing I know her from is that. So like
is she Paulina or Peach in that?
She's neither. She is Dennis Hopper's right-hand woman.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yes.
Yeah. Like she's like the second in command kind of thing.
The Lakitu of that.
Or yeah, Kamek, I guess, would be. But yeah, I will say the one like exception to the like this is a very targeted for kids movie is the like just absolute bleakness of the Luma character.
Oh my gosh, that Luma character is so freaking great.
Which like and I don't think I think like this was like Nick's criticism in the Kind of Funny interview as well. Like the fact that there's as much Luma Lee character as there is makes me wish the movie did have more of that as opposed to that really being like the only thing.
Yeah. I think that it would have been a lot more fun to have people just be like, yeah, we got captured. Like, we are going to die. Just like keep like to not what's the opposite of hype, but making Luigi just more and more depressed.
Just dreading.
Just making Luigi dread more and more. I love that because it means that the more Luigi's a coward means the moments where he's brave are even better. Mm-hmm. That's the best part about Luigi's character. Shout out to all the Luigi's Mansion references too. Like it was great.
Yeah. And like I think Luigi is the character that most gets like sidelined by the plot because they like he's
the damsel.
The princess is in the
princess.
other castle kind of thing,
Mhm.
which, you know, at least they like shout out to how they incorporated that line and stuff like that. But yeah, like instead of like by saying, hey, we're going to make Peach a badass in this, we still need Mario to be like saving somebody. So let's rely on that family connection and just completely separate him and Luigi for the whole movie. Which I think hurts Luigi more than anything else. Like the couple minutes like we, you know, pop back over to him are fun little moments. And again, Charlie Day's like having fun with the role.
Yes.
I don't remember if it was like in a Luigi thing that we get the flashback or if it was a Mario thing, but like the flashback to baby Mario and baby Luigi was great. Like there were, again, tons of fan servicey kinds of things in this movie that had like little, you know, delightful riffs and stuff like that. And again, we're putting smiles on my face. But
yeah,
just from the nature of this very like, all right, these two are separated. One gets captured. One basically needs to go save him. Luigi ends up suffering as Peach did in so many games early on.
Yeah.
Plot wise,
I think that there is something about the way that how do I put this? There are so many great interactions between Bowser and Luigi. I wish we had gotten more of them.
sure.
If it was just like, we're going to get intel from his brother, and just one of my favorite lines in the entire movie it's two lines. It's Bowser torturing Luigi by pulling on his mustache and pulling out hairs by saying like, would you say princesses find him attractive? And Luigi's response is, if they have good taste, they do. And it's just like, everything up to that point has just been like, no. And it's like, well, it's just like, damn, like it's so good. It's so good. There are so many moments like that where it's like, it throws me off, where I was just like not expecting that. Yeah, I think overall, like the plot is it's super light on plot. This is a movie about having fun, having a good time, and just the vibes. The vibes of this film are pretty immaculate as far as what they're trying to do, the messages they're trying to follow through on, that are super easy to understand, and it is a Nintendo-ass film. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. I mean, like, it is very much, like I said, in the spoiler-free stuff, it's getting from point A to point B, and that's pretty much, like, what this movie is, just, like, repeated. It's, all right, Mario comes into the Mushroom Kingdom, gotta get from point A to point B, Toad just takes him straight there.
Yep.
There's, like, a little bit of hijinks with pipes and stuff like that, but it's, I mean, he has no problems getting into the Mushroom Kingdom. He has no problems getting to see the princess. He has like a montage. Like I think the most like egregious example of this is like he doesn't even complete the obstacle course that she has set out for him. Like he comes very, very close, and like we get to see the whole montage thing, but like he still ends up falling short. And she's like, "All right, good enough," and then they go. It's like, okay,
I think a better explanation. And in my mind, you know me. You give me gaps, I will fill them with my own conjecture.
Yeah.
I am the Lord of Conjecture on any of our podcasts. Much to your chagrin. My interpretation and my understanding of that is, I felt that the way Peach, it isn't just like Peach, oh, they rescued me, they raised me, I have a loyalty to them. It's when they talk about the Toads, it's like these Toads have lots of heart. Like they may be weak, they may be,
you're pulling this from nowhere. Cool.
I felt it was about like they have heart, and then something about she recognizes in Mario is, did Mario ace the course and complete it?
Like Toad, the Keegan-Michael Key Toad, is the only one that exhibits heart in this. Like everybody else, she tells them to run and hide, they run and hide.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know. Like I felt like it was like Peach's love for these creatures is built off of like about the effort and what they try to do, but at the same time, this is different. Like
again, that's coming from nothing in this movie.
I've only seen it once. I don't have ways of like
they she comes in. they adopt her and make her a princess. Like that. I don't know what they're building up and what she's supporting or seeing that supports that, but
I don't know if there was a line somewhere. I don't know if there was
like she clearly loves them. They took care of her. They raised her, kind of thing.
Yeah,
and they made her their princess.
They love her. Like it's clear she loves them and they love her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, I really appreciated that Mario's focus was completely on saving his brother. And so while there's like, tell me if you're wrong, I did not get like, there was lots of points around people, like it felt like trying to pair them up or like moments of trying to be like, yay, there's like, hey, romance, especially because Bowser's super jealous of, because he's an incel and he can't handle the reality of Peach's stuff, but, of Peach being like an autonomous person. Because he threatens violence if she doesn't do what he wants.
I mean, that's Bowser, but also I don't think his issue is with her being like an autonomous person. It's his issue is that she doesn't want to be with him, so he's going to take her by force because he's a bad guy. He's a villain. That's
fair. I guess I should stop saying incel and just be like, he's a bad guy. Yeah. And so he's going to do bad guy things. There we go. Yeah, no, I think that, what was I saying? Sorry, I got caught off, kind of off the rails on that one, but back to my original point is I think that to that relationship, I never felt that there was actual like real flirtation because they're both so mission focused. But tell me if you got something different.
I mean, I think
I feel like that might have been like my lens coloring it differently.
I think because it is such a kids-focused movie that there's not a ton of it. I think the extent that we get is probably in the like as soon as he sees her, we get like the slow-mo. He clearly is like falling for her in that whole tropey kind of like mechanic, and then she flips him, and so it's clearly not like immediately reciprocated. But then when they are driving down Rainbow Road, I think, and they have a little moment together where they're talking about their history and the whole like I'll buy you a turtle sometime or something like that. That gets then interrupted by Donkey Kong and Toad like piling on that. I think that's like the extent of their like little flirtation that we get really in the film. And again, I think because I think it's a rated G movie probably, or or PG at best. So it is like they're not gonna it's PG. So they're not gonna lean too heavily into like those kinds of vibes. And I think it's at least like enough of a modern thing that it doesn't feel it needs to rely on a love story at its center, or that love story can be Mario and his brother, and then a sequel can be Mario and the princess falling in love
for sure
while they're on an adventure or something like that.
And so I was asking that because like I did not and I haven't really seen it anywhere, but I did get like that flirtation vibe, like a little bit of that flirtation vibe at the cart scene. But I wasn't sure. I'm like, am I just coloring this so, like, is my lens coloring this so non-romantically that I'm not seeing something that's obviously there? But if you didn't really see it either, that's fair.
Yeah, I think it's just not the central focus, or not a huge focus of this movie, and it was very much a like they are on a mission to save the Mushroom Kingdom or save Luigi, and so it's not really the forefront of their thinking. So we get to the Donkey Kong Kingdom, and I mean we get like a fun Donkey Kong fight. We get the DK rap, of course. I guess like going back, like it was very fun seeing the like old Super Mario Brothers rap in the commercial, in the like ad for the movie. So I love that is also an ad within the movie. That was a fun little thing. And then Easter eggs galore in the Brooklyn area. One of the things, like, it didn't work for me particularly was the whole like Mario Brothers versus the dog, especially because it was like just kind of a generic dog. Like if it had been the Duck Hunt dog,
oh my gosh, if it had been the Duck Hunt dog, that would have been so great.
I am all here for this.
Oh my gosh,
why is it not the Duck Hunt dog?
Yeah, obviously not the Duck Hunt dog. Although shout out to the dog at the very end, giving them like the nod.
Yeah, the nod of approval after they save his life. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with you. That felt super Illumination to me.
Yeah, that was like all right, here's a Minion sequence.
Yeah, that's 100% a Minions Despicable Me level sequence. The fancy schmancy apartment, like all of that felt way more Illumination than Nintendo. Completely.
Yeah, which is like weird because like it comes immediately off the back of like, all right, we got to get to this job, so we're gonna go into straight like 2D side-scrolling, walking through a pseudo recreation of level 1-1 to get there,
which was awesome. Like the animation in this movie is fantastic. It's so damn good, especially when they're doing like the Nintendo stuff. Like the 1-1 recreation was so freaking good, man. I loved it.
And then later on, getting like when they go back home, like the one little character thing they introduce is that Mario doesn't like mushroom, which is obviously going to, come into play later on. But yeah, the whole idea of, like shout out to Charles Martinet's cameo as, a guy playing Jumpman and doing the full Mario, but he also plays Mario's dad, which is much like Ashley Johnson in Last of Us. It's a fun little like passing of the torch kind of. I appreciate that both of these adaptations did that kind of thing. Okay, so yeah, that basically gets us through all of the Brooklyn stuff. They go down into we get the Pauline cameo. They go into the pipes under Brooklyn to try and save things. We get the little one level 1-2 musical cues and stuff like that, and then they're in the Mushroom Kingdom. We already talked a whole bunch of that stuff. So yeah, off to the Donkey Kong Country. I almost and part of it is like, okay, maybe they'll do this in other things, but we get to see so many of we get to see the world map a couple times, either in 3D world kind of aesthetic, or I love the one in the Donkey Kong Country that was Super Mario World inspired, flat map. That I was like, okay, we only see 3 and an asterisk kingdoms here. We get to see the penguin thing at the very beginning of the movie. We get to see obviously Bowser's place. We get to see Mushroom Kingdom. We get to see this Donkey Kong Country. And I was like, I why tease us with those other worlds if we're not going to really spend any time with them or see them or anything like that? But maybe we'll go there in a future adventure. But yeah, we get the Donkey Kong fight. What'd you think of that one?
I loved it. It was Super Smash Brothers, Super Smash Brothers coded throughout that entire thing. It was fun. It was energetic. We got power-ups. We got to see that DK Donkey Kong is a absolute goober of a powerhouse. He's a total himbo. Love it. You know me. I love me himbos. And getting DK as the Nintendo himbo is iconic and great. And I'm going to say, shout out to Fred Armisen. I like his Cranky Kong. I know a lot of people have been hating on it. I thought it was great.
I hated it in as much as Fred Armisen doesn't really do it for me all that often. And I feel I've seen him play more interesting characters and do more interesting voices that would fit Cranky Kong better. Cranky Kong should be an older, crankier guy. It's in his name, and this guy is just kind of it felt like his direction and or translation of Cranky was middle-aged Jewish man.
I was going to say he has very big Larry David vibes, and I would say Larry David's Cranky.
I didn't get Larry David from it.
That's fair.
It didn't go to the Larry David level of it, or the Bernie Sanders level of it, or something like that. One of the things I will say that I kept wanting in that sequence, and then ended up being a little disappointed that they didn't do anything with it. Obviously, they have it set up so they can do some side-scrolling shots kind of thing on this like girders Smash Brothers-esque battlefield. But they're on girders.
Yep.
Donkey Kong is throwing barrels. I wanted there to be a moment where, like, I don't know if he hits really hard or something, but I wanted it to be a moment where it was like the Donkey Kong like angled girders that he throws.
Yes, I did too.
Down.
I was wanting that as well.
And so I was very disappointed that they just don't give us that.
Yep.
It's like there were just moments like that where it's like you made it 90% of the way to a really fun idea here. I just wanted you to get that last 10%. And so yeah, that was one of them. And instead they went with the like, all right, we're going to do Catsuit Mario here. It's like, okay, at least we knocked Catsuit Mario out of the way so we don't have to like come back to it and see that silly thing later. As
somebody who has never been a big fan of the catsuits, it's fine. It's out of the way.
Yeah.
It's done.
Yeah.
Because then we get the real super suit from him later on.
Yeah, the Tanuki suit.
Yeah.
So eventually Mario wins. We had our little Diddy Kong cameo there with was it Dixie or Candy Kong? I don't remember. Which is
Dixie
which.
Kong.
Dixie Kong, yeah,
was there
next to Diddy.
And so was what's the big he's part of the DK crew and DK64.
I mean, like Funky Kong is there later in the carts scene. There was like another Kong. I don't know the Donkey Kong crew as well as
he wears like a blue
there's another
vest.
Kong somewhere in there.
Yeah, he was also, but what was I saying? He is also in that trio as well.
Yeah, okay.
So he's in that trio, and then also
then there's also that like random Kong that is like a nobody Kong that we get that kind of like introduces the thing, which
is so weird because that's such a cool Kong.
With the Take on Me music, which is like I'm never gonna be mad about having to hear Take on Me.
True.
But also, especially, we're recording this Sunday after the movie has come out, and the soundtrack came out a couple days ago, and people like immediately pinpointed that there's a Donkey Kong Country remix song on the soundtrack that works perfectly with that scene.
Oh no.
So the whole theory is that like they said, well, people probably don't know the Donkey Kong music as well, so instead we're gonna put in, it was probably like a studio note to throw in an 80s song in there.
Boo.
So we get Take on Me.
Boo. I mean, perfect song choice to replace it with, but boo.
Sure. I mean, like, but not really. It doesn't really do anything for that. Like,
not perfect. Sorry.
Doesn't do anything. It's a scene that introduces, okay, yep, they can drive around. We get this very like flyby kind of shot of the Donkey Kong, town kind of thing. And then they go, jumping off or flying off a jump, and we get the hang glider go-kart. So we're in full Mario Kart 8 territory.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like, it doesn't really, like, Take on Me doesn't do anything to add to that scene.
No, it doesn't.
Apart from being Take on Me.
But if the studio said, hey, we're not going to use the song that's actually perfect for it, what song should we replace it with? Take on Me is probably not the worst choice.
Yeah. That's, I mean, like, again, going back to the montage, the Holding Out for a Hero song that we get in the like Mario montage of doing the obstacle course.
Yeah.
It's like, I agree with, I think Tim said this on In Review, and I've seen it probably elsewhere. I think probably also I've seen Dan Merle say it on his review. Like Shrek 2 did it. Like stop doing Holding Out for a Hero. Like it just doesn't work anywhere else.
It doesn't.
Never to that degree.
Another animated film already did it better. Don't just take from that. Like it's pointless. No, I agree 100%. I don't think that was a good, like, there's so many great musical pieces you can pick from the Mario franchise. You definitely didn't need to pull any licensed music from anywhere.
Yeah.
Especially, and I'm also going to do another one at the very end of this film, which is the dun 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 da 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 da.
I don't know what song.
Mr. What?
Oh, the one from that's in Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Yes.
Mr. Brightside or whatever. No, not Mr. Brightside. That's a
killer song.
That's whatever. But yeah, I know what song you're talking about now. Yeah.
That song, like, also for the last song that we hear before we go to credits, absolutely awful.
Sure. Yeah, but on a positive note, song wise, Bowser sitting at a piano and singing his love for Peach is great. The peaches, 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 peaches.
Which, by the way, there is
peaches.
a full music video of it.
I know,
now.
I've seen it a couple times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jack Black again, like in the last sequence, like Seth Rogen comes out, does the full like Seth Rogen, like he's not really doing a character so much as he's doing Seth Rogen, has like a moment where he just does the straight like Seth Rogen laugh when he sees Cat Mario and stuff like that. But Jack Black coming in and just being full Jack Black about Bowser 2, so much fun. And such a fun vibe for Bowser to have, especially in this like pining after Peach kind of sentimentality that he's going to have. And like his like insecurities and like trying to get Kamek to, you know, bolster him up and stuff like that. Just lots of fun there. Somewhere along here, we did get like this weird like horror sequence for Luigi when he lands in like the Darklands, of course, and then gets like, you know, almost murdered by dry bones, almost murdered by some Shy Guys that just pop up out of nowhere. And you know, like again, those things fun for references to the old games and stuff like that. But pretty like straightforward in terms of like, all right, he's been captured and now we're going to see him get taken to Bowser, but that's all going to happen off screen kind of stuff. I'm trying to think where else we go from here.
Oh, I guess
like, yeah, Rainbow Road and the cart stuff.
The cart stuff was awesome. Just like absolutely great. Like pulling directly from the Mario Kart style of building a cart out. Yep. I love that. It's like, why are the Kongs such a great army? It's like, because they have the carts.
Yeah. To the level of not only the wheels that we that they use to like pick the items, but even to like pressing A to like select your thing. I was like, all right.
Whoever animated those sections, they knew their assignment and they nailed it. It was so damn good.
Lots of fun. The reveal of Rainbow Road, obviously spoiled by the trailers and stuff like that, but still like a ton of fun here. Makes for a fun action sequence when the Troopas show up and start just wrecking shop. And here's where this is where for me we went from like and part of this I guess was before the battle starts, and it was that like Kong just immediately dunking and being like, "Is that your idea of flirting? That's terrible." To Mario, like the animosity that he continues to have for Mario throughout the film,
it's so good.
Is so what good. Makes Seth Rogen's performance in that just fun for me.
And it makes Mario eventually winning him over as a friend worth it.
Yeah. The when they bond on, you know, both having parents who are disappointed in them. Just like their dynamic over the course of the film. If you're not going to get like Mario and Bowser one-on-one for most of this, which obviously we don't structurally, it's fun to have Mario have an antagonist along for the ride. And so we see that with DK. The Rainbow Road stuff, lots of fun, lots of action. It would have been maybe like more of fun, more of a surprise if we hadn't seen so much of it from trailers and stuff before the movie, especially like, there's probably like 7 to 10 minutes of like trailers and stuff out there, which is, a not insignificant portion of a 90-minute movie. So there were a lot of things we'd already seen. But we get basically the only survivor of the onslaught being Peach, who rushes back to the Mushroom Kingdom. We get Mario and Donkey Kong like sent down to the deeps and getting swallowed by an eel, Pinocchio style.
It was great. Shout out to those Rainbow Road pieces too. Like the animation on those is so damn good. Mm-hmm. Like the lighting effects that are on those and how they keep their lighting consistent.
Yeah. And
the water around them moves around them instead. And the way that the water moves and affects the light but it doesn't act like, how do I phrase this? The way that the light is consistent coming off of those Rainbow Road pieces and the way that the animation of the ocean water fluctuates the way that it does around the light and those pieces and the Rainbow Road pieces is incredible. I was so blown away in the theaters when I was watching it, and I'm like, where's the lighting coming from in the scene? And then realizing, oh my gosh, it's those pieces of Rainbow Road. Like, it's so damn good. It's so damn good.
Yeah. They eventually get out via via Donkey Kong's explosive barrel, and then Peach basically agrees to go with Bowser, so all the Toads don't die. And then we get the little wedding sequence where Peach busts out the blue fire flower, freezes a whole bunch of stuff. Again, goes full badass mode. Doesn't need saving, but along the in tandem, we're getting the great Donkey Kong and Mario battle through the Mushroom Kingdom up to the Bowser section, which again, a lot of that it was in trailers and stuff, but Donkey Kong going full fire Donkey Kong and Mario getting the Tanuki suit, as you alluded to earlier, sends him flying, saves Luigi. We got fun little cameos. I love seeing King Babam and King Boo among the attendees of the wedding, and then ultimately we get the Bullet Bill sequence that takes us back to New York, and then we get a final showdown between the Super Mario Brothers and Bowser. That's pure fun nostalgia. They obviously set up from the very beginning that the superstar is kind of the big bad invincibility kind of thing, which Bowser's been threatening with the entire time, and instead we get Mario and Luigi using it in tandem to just completely wreck shop among the Bowser army, save Brooklyn, and then they force feed Bowser a blue mushroom to shrink him down baby size. Trying to think anything else. I mean, throughout here, it's hard to pinpoint where the moments happen, stuff like that. But throughout, great musical cues and references to a lot of iconic Mario themes. We got little nods to there are galaxies out there, so maybe we'll see a Super Mario Galaxy kind of storyline somewhere in the future. We get this hint that Princess Peach might have a more mysterious backstory. We'll have to find that out in a future thing, which I imagine would be the plot of the next movie is finding Peach's parents or something like that. Or I mean, it's very hey, there's another just ripping off a classic animated sequel. It's Shrek 2.
Yeah, there you go.
Right, we gotta go meet the parents, or discover and find the parents and then meet them. But yeah, then we get our little teases. We get the tease of Yoshi, which would have worked better if we hadn't already seen a whole land of Yoshis in a montage, walking through the world sequence. And obviously, this is going to be the Yoshi, but it's still okay. If you had taken out that 2 seconds earlier in the movie, this would be a much cooler little tease. And then we got Bowser singing one last song, Mini Bowser style. So yeah, any other moments or anything that I kind of glossed over that you want to highlight or jump on?
When I think about the only thing I think I'll leave off in my kind of last notes is, I think that this had the potential to be a better movie in a lot of ways. But I'm not upset with what we got. What we got is a more than serviceable, fun romp of a film that has a lot of joyful moments. And I really do think that the cast, for the most part, absolutely brought it. Standout performances are the standout performances, but I also think that a lot of the background, a lot of the side characters, a lot of the, just a lot of different minor characters just absolutely nail their performances. And I think that Illumination, despite what we might feel about the storytelling or how this movie ended up being more focused, more feeling more like a kid's movie than a full family film. I think that the quality of animation that was brought to it was fantastic. I've never been I don't think I recall an animated film being this I don't know if it's just because they brought Mario to life in a very different kind of way that still felt that there was depth and character to it. And I think the biggest complaint that I have is that we just didn't spend enough time in this, or we didn't spend more time in this world, because I love this world. I love what we saw from it. And I wished we just would have gotten more of it. And that's not a bad criticism to have. That this was so good, I wanted more of it it's not a dig about the movie. It doesn't mean that the movie's bad. It means that it's good. I just want it to be better. And not necessarily better, but just being more and getting more of this world. Just bravo, hats off to them. They made it work, and they did a great job.
Yeah, again, I thought about jumping in while you're talking about this in like the Rainbow Roads, like in the water sequence, but yeah, like never in this movie was I like, this is an ugly movie. No. Like, this is incredible, beautiful animation, and obviously, again, so much care and attention to detail put into so many background elements. I'm sure once the movie is like fully accessible online, there will be tons of like, here's every Easter egg, and it's gonna be like screenshots and frame by frame kind of stuff of the film. But like even without, even on just one time through seeing this, there were so many fun little things that you could just kind of spot on your own. And again, like even outside of the Mario stuff, there was a ton of like just Nintendo stuff in general. The Punch Out Pizzeria being like kind of the main location that we start in. Even before it's like we see it's called the Punch Out Pizzeria, it's the zoom out of the TV that's playing the commercial, and you see like Glass Joe, picture of Glass Joe on the wall, and other Punch Out characters and stuff like that. Then the Jumpman arcade, you see
the way they made
Mario
that
playing Kid Icarus on a Nintendo original Nintendo Entertainment System. There's like a Star Fox R-Wing in his room. You get like one of the shots in the or one of the shops in Brooklyn is something de Canard or whatever, and it's basically like it's whatever is French for duck hunt, and you see one of the ducks kind of like flying out in in a little like pub kind of sign, and so yeah, there's just a ton of Nintendo love poured into this movie in a very beautiful way. I won't go so far to say like it's the most beautiful, animated thing, because I don't think anything's going to top Spider-Verse for me anytime soon, except maybe another Spider-Verse movie.
Yeah, I think that might be it.
But like in terms of like this animation style, and especially like of the Illumination things I've seen, like this is easily like just I think in large part drawing from its source material. It is vibrant, it is colorful, it is beautiful in so many of those elements, especially like obviously having watched a lot of like Star Wars stuff recently. I always think about the fact that like Star Wars has so many like singular palette places, an ice planet, a desert planet. Like it's rare you get like just a full boisterous kind of place and location, and seeing all the colors in the Mushroom Kingdom, or seeing all the colors in like the Donkey Kong area and stuff like that. Just this place was never lacking for something to look at, and in a good way. And yeah, I think to what you're saying, like it is a negative that is like, yeah, I wanted more time in these places. I wanted more moments, like drawing attention to some of those details and stuff like that, that this movie isn't. This movie, much like Ready Player One, which is a movie I do very much love. Like there are, I think both of these movies have a ton of like, well, we're just going to like load up the background with like Easter eggs and things to like fill out a shot. It's like cool. And yay for, having the patience to freeze frame all of those shots and stuff like that, but also like showcase some of those things more. Like, weirdly enough, there's like, I can think of like a particular Easter egg in Ready Player One that was like, the top of a magazine stack is the very first Nintendo Power magazine, which is like Super Mario Brothers 2, I believe, and is like a claymation Luigi jumping out of a pipe or something. And it's like, you could have had that somewhere in here and like be making a direct reference to that. And it's weird, some of the things that they just don't do. But still, ton of fun. And yeah, it's I think I will have remembered this movie much more fondly if it had had those like more all ages kinds of elements than this one, which will probably be like somewhat forgettable for me because the plot is somewhat forgettable or straightforward or simple. It's just like this isn't a movie I'm going to think of a ton until like the next one comes around and be like, okay, let's go pop back in that 90 minutes and remember, just the, silly smile on my face kind of thing. But
I think this will be a movie that when it eventually gets out to the public, as far as like, I'm sorry, when it's not in theaters and it's at home with whatever streaming or delivery method you're choosing to watch it up on or with, I think this will be a great movie just to throw on and just have it be on for 92 minutes. And then you turn it off and it's like, man, I had a smile on my face that entire 92 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think this is definitely going to like that feeling that we had in the theater where it was just like smiles from beginning to end. I don't think that that's just because we were in the theaters. I think that will be I think that's the quality of the film itself. And I look forward to just enjoying that film time and time again.
I will say also I think the music and visuals work in tandem so well.
Yes.
That is like one of those things that, I would be interested in doing that much more so than like I threw the soundtrack on that, they've made available now. And I remember specific musical sting moments and stuff like that, but a musical sting in a 2.5 minute track, I'm like, this doesn't work as well if I'm not seeing the things that are like leading up to the musical sting or something like that. Maybe that's just me because I've never been like a music soundtrack kind of guy, but that was like a thing that I found myself thinking as I was like listening to the music to the soundtrack. I was like, oh, there's a lot of music on this that I just was kind of like happening underneath scenes that I wasn't really paying attention to until, a flourish that is like, oh, there's the Mario 1 theme or there's the Super Mario 3 music or something like that. But yeah. Still definitely go recommend, go see it if you are so inclined, if you are a Mario fan, of course. If not, if you have kids, go have a fun time. It'll be a bright, colorful experience. And, hopefully you'll have fun there. Well, that is, I think, going to do it for this episode. Nice little quick one. We kept it on, a little over an hour here, but certainly under an hour and a half, much like this movie. So thank you, Cam, for joining me. You can follow Cam at Rev Cabot. Let's go around with the metaphorical plugs. Our real table and real plugs, I guess. Yeah. I can probably update this to, especially when it's like just you and me, our real tables here. But yeah, Rev Cabot, 2 B's, 2 T's, anything you want to give a shout out to there, Cam?
Yeah. Check out our latest Let's Plays that we're doing, both Jedi Fallen Order as well as Elden Ring. We have more of those coming for you guys. Also, I believe definitely more Legend of Zelda as well. So go check out youtube.com/thatnerdysite. If you're listening to this as a podcast, if you're watching this already, you're already there. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and just hit the ring-a-ding-ding, that notification bell to make sure. Sorry, I got on the closing spiel just now. My apologies.
That's fine.
But yeah, no, check us out. We do awesome stuff. We make awesome podcasts, and we are awesome people. So.
There you go. You follow me at Trevor J. Starkey. I will echo that, and I will also shout out That D Plus Show. We unfortunately were unable to record last week due to some personal circumstances, but we are hoping to wrap up our run of Pirates of the Caribbean movies this week with Dead Men Tell No Tales. Finishing that up, and then that'll probably put us into... next week, I think, will be probably a Mandalorian season wrap up because that'll be ending next week. So we got that's probably what to look forward to in the next couple weeks of That D Plus Show every Friday. All the Let's Plays that Cam already shouted out. You can follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site. Go check out thatnerdysite.com for the latest content from us, including I finally wrote up all my Game of the Year, Movie of the Year, Best of 2022 lists. Had a little flurry of writing inspiration last week, so I did those two. I had already done like Best Lego Sets back at the beginning of the year. That was like the one I got done. And then two other ones. One that I usually do is like my favorite platinums of the year. So I ranked those. And then another new list that I added this year was my favorite actual play series, since I've gone down that rabbit hole super hard. So you can go find my thoughts on all of those topics in our best of kind of categories of stuff from 2022. In April of 2023. Whatever. But yeah, if you liked what you heard, as Cameron alluded to earlier, go ahead and like, subscribe, ring notification bells, all of that fun stuff. Thank you for joining us. As always, stay nerdy and be good to each other.